Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for that awesome introduction and getting us all warmed up. How are we doing today? We're good? All right, that's okay. We can do better than that, okay? How are we doing today? Yeah, it's a little better. Okay, so let's see. Do we have slides? There we go. Okay. Oop. He ran through all this. The giveaway. Panelists. Let me try this. Keep going? Yep. There we go. Okay. Back. Okay. Thank you. All right, so digital has changed everything. It's changed the way that we can market and communicate with all of our consumers. Today, we have so many choices with digital. So many choices in the way that we can connect with our consumers. But how do we know what has the greatest impact? Right, so we've got Instagram or Snapchat. Which is better? I don't know. I'm not sure. Where do we find the greatest impact? Should we do Twitter? Or should we look at Facebook? Should we do LinkedIn ads, LinkedIn sponsored updates, or LinkedIn text ads? I'm not sure. So many choices today. Should we do blog posts, or should we do podcasts? Should we do live video or regular video? I'm not sure. Should we do infographics or explainer videos? Should we put a billboard on the side of a highway or a banner on the side of a website? Should we do promotional pens or stress balls? Should we do the 5x10 booth or the amazing 80x300 two-story LED light awesome booth? Right? We have so many choices today. And it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the choices. But you know, if we ask CEOs what we should focus on, the answer is clear. If we ask our CEO or executive team where we should focus, the answer is clear. Executives are looking for marketing to deliver revenue. Survey after survey after survey shows that the majority, if not all, executives and CEOs are looking for marketing to deliver revenue. Okay, well, that makes it feel easier, right? So we have to deliver revenue, but here's what really happens, right? The org chart gets in the way. So what do I mean by that? So your CEO comes to a conference like this. He's here at the Marriott Marquis in New York, and he meets another executive who says, you know, Instagram is the hot new thing. We need to get on Instagram and check out my Instagram. I post all these photos, and my team posts photos, and people are hearting it all over the place. So your CEO comes back and says, hey guys, I think we need to be on Instagram. And so your CMO says, guys, we need to get on Instagram ASAP. So we figure out Instagram. 3 weeks later, the CEO looks back at your Instagram account and he sees like 3 followers and 1 heart. And he turns around and he says, what's up with our Instagram? And then he turns to the CMO and the CMO says, come on guys, what's going on? And so what do? We buy ads on Instagram. 3 weeks later, your CMO goes to lunch with another CMO who says, hey, it's all about Snapchat. Check this out. We just sponsored a rainbow puke filter. Isn't that cool? So we sponsor rainbow puking filters on Snapchat, right? And around and around it goes. So imagine you're the CEO of an American car manufacturer, Chevy. And you're sitting in your boardroom and you say, you know what? These millennials, they're not buying cars. And millennials, you millennials out there, you love beards. Lots and lots of beards. The guys love the beards. The ladies love the guys with the beards. So we're going to create a commercial with real beards, not actors. And we're going to do 50 variations of the real beards, not actors commercials. And we're going to show all these millennials talking about how amazing our cars are. And that's going to get them to buy cars, right? That's what the CEO said. The Advertising Research Foundation found that after 40 impressions from a single brand, sales start to decline. Just 40 impressions. So marketing has an impact. Unfortunately, it's not always the impact that we want. If you think 40 sounds like a lot, just watch one football game on a Sunday afternoon. 65 ad spots in one NFL football game. Chevy bought most of them, by the way. So you only have to watch 1 or 2 football games to get 40 ad impressions. 40 ad impressions, sales start to decline. We don't just ignore brands who advertise today. We punish them. So why do we do all this stuff that we know doesn't work? You know this is true. Behind every bad idea is an executive who asked for it, right? So the CEO says, hey, I want you to drive revenue, but then asks the CMO to go do something. The CMO says, go do something, and so we do stuff, right? We are the ones who do all the stuff. We've got tactics for days, marketing tactics for days. We do all this stuff even though we know better. So we have to stop blaming our boss for bad ideas. We have to stop blaming our boss for bad ideas. Best GIF ever. Don't worry, Holly's fine. She survived this terrible ordeal. We have to stop blaming our boss for bad ideas and start proposing better ones. So 2017 is the year of tough choices. The toughest choice you'll make in your career is the choice between making everyone above you happy and making your customers successful. So we have to choose to become what I call champion leaders. So what is a champion leader? A champion leader is anyone who fights for the ideas that bridge the gap between a task and an outcome. And any one of us can fight for those ideas. So every one of us is a leader. We are all leaders. We are accountable for doing the stuff that matters. Matters to our customers and matters for our business, and that makes an impact. So let's meet a champion leader. This is Lily Lepine. She was the marketing manager for Capgemini. And Capgemini, if you don't know, they're a consulting services company. They're the number 4 player in the global consulting services market. They're number 4 after KPMG is number 3, Deloitte is number 2, and Accenture is number 1. So their CEO is sitting in their boardroom and says, you know, I'm tired of being number 4. And when I look around, what I see is I see these brands who are doing a much better job of marketing themselves. So Lily has this marketing manager job, and she's got all these tough choices. Should she update her blog post or update her blog with a post? Should she send out some tweets? Should she focus on PR? The CEO is angry with marketing, frustrated that they're number 4 in the marketplace. He looks around at KPMG and he sees that they sponsor golfers, and he looks at Deloitte and he sees that they sponsor golfers, and he looks at Accenture and he sees that they sponsor everything that has anything to do with golf. Right? And so what do you think the CEO wants them to do? Let's put our logo on a golfer's hat. Yeah, that's awesome, high five. And they all love this idea. And the CMO says, hey man, we're gonna sponsor all these golf tournaments. And the VP of marketing says we're gonna put our logo on hats and shirts and banners all over the place. But Lily pushed back. Lily said, wait a minute. I know we're the number 4 player in the services market, but there's a better way to get clients than putting our logo on a golfer's hat. So her idea was to invest in content marketing. And she knew that they would be resistant. So she said, hey, just give me 0.1% of our advertising budget. All I need is 0.1% of our advertising budget. I'm gonna focus on creating content that our customers are actually interested in. 0.1% of the advertising budget. I'm going to help us raise awareness of our brand. And you can hold me accountable to that with this measure or this metric of success of 1 million visitors. I'm going to bring 1 million visitors to a branded content marketing platform that we own for just 0.1% of our advertising budget. So she took her idea to her boss, and luckily for Lily, they said yes. They said go for it. So Lily did some research, and what she found was that their audience was almost exclusively hanging out and engaging with content on LinkedIn. So they used LinkedIn sponsored updates, content they knew that their target audience would be interested in, and brought them into Capgemini's content-loop.com. So it's Capgemini Content Loop. And Lily didn't just achieve her goal of getting 1 million visitors. She also drove $1 million in sales for that platform. The goal wasn't to deliver sales. The goal was to raise awareness. But because she did such a great job of focusing on creating and publishing great content that their audience was actually interested in, because they targeted so perfectly on LinkedIn, brought the right audience to engage with their content, it converted to $1 million in sales. So pretty good, right? Not too bad. 0.1% of the advertising budget, $1 million in sales. Now Lily had another idea. In the second year, she said, I think I can double our results. I think that if we take our audience from LinkedIn, bring them to our branded content platform, and then offer them an opportunity to connect with our internal experts, I think we can deliver more sales. I'm going to commit to doubling our sales without spending any more money. So they did more LinkedIn sponsored updates. She continued publishing the content, and then they popped up this offer. If you liked our content, maybe you want to connect with our practice leaders, our experts. If you're into cloud computing, maybe you want to talk to Remco, our practice leader for cloud computing. She didn't just double her results. In the second year, Lily delivered $24 million in sales with no increase in budget. 0.1% of the advertising budget, creating customer-focused content, connecting with their experts, $24 million in sales. So the choice for Lily was pretty easy. The choice for Lily was pretty easy. What happened was the CEO wanted awareness, greater awareness. The sales team was able to achieve $25 million in sales, $1 million in the first year, $24 million in the second year. And marketing was able to show that they delivered revenue. ROI, 0.1% of the advertising budget, delivered $25 million in sales. What Lily found was the value of focusing on creating content that their audiences actually want, the compounding value of customer-focused marketing. So it's kind of like your 401k or your retirement account, right? You put a small amount of money every single paycheck into your retirement account, and it doesn't just grow linearly, it grows exponentially, it accelerates. That's what customer-focused content marketing can do for your brand. A consistent investment over time produces an accelerating rate of return. Consistent investment in creating customer-focused content delivers an accelerating rate of return. This is an asset, a financial asset that has real value that grows over time. So Lily's a champion leader. Champion leaders choose to focus on customer impact, and that delivers business outcomes. So how did this work? Lily had an idea. She presented it to her boss, Emmanuel Lachone, who championed that idea, who presented it to his boss, Virginie Regis, who supported Emmanuel's leadership. So who's the real hero of this story? Well, obviously Lily's the hero because she presented her idea. Virginie's the hero of the story because she supported her manager and his leadership. And Emmanuel's the hero because he championed Lily's idea. So they're all heroes. But there's a backstory. Right? Lily didn't say, hey, I need to find a champion for my idea. The backstory is that Emmanuel, 3 years before, had an idea to do something innovative, a strategic initiative. And Lily wasn't on his team at the time, but she supported that idea. She supported that idea across the organization. And they developed a friendship. That friendship led Emmanuel to ask Lily to come join her team. So the lesson here is that we don't find idea champions. We have to earn them. When we champion someone else's idea, we earn a champion, maybe for life. So my question to you is, whose idea have you championed lately? Whose idea have you championed lately? Now maybe your team looks something like this. I know my teams have looked a lot like this and worse in the past. We don't have to actually even like our coworkers to support or champion their ideas. We all have the power to be champion leaders. All right. One way that you can do this inside your organization is what I call the one-question survey. And the one-question survey is something I found out of a whole bunch of research that showed that innovative companies have managers who champion the ideas of their employees. Innovative companies have managers who champion the ideas of their employees. And you can almost change your culture overnight by implementing this one question. Do you feel that your manager or your team, depending on how you want to ask it, do you feel that your manager or your team supports ideas across the organization? This does three things. One, it tells employees, your colleagues and peers, that presenting ideas is important and should be encouraged. Number two, your managers realize, the managers and leaders inside your organization realize that championing, supporting ideas is important. And three, it tells your team members, colleagues, and peers that they should support one another. One question can dramatically change your entire culture overnight. So I have a secret, and my secret is that I've had the fact about me, fact of the day. My fact of the day, I had 53 jobs up until this point. 53 jobs, and it took me 33 jobs to realize this secret, this key to success about being a champion leader. So this is the job where I learned that. And you can see them all there. Only 4 are made up, I promise. There are actually 53 jobs here. 49 of them are real. So I promise I haven't made any up except for those 4. But this is the first paycheck I received. I think I was about 16 years old. I went to work for a pimple-faced 19-year-old at this Pizza Hut, and I worked there for exactly 4 hours. I walked in, he was on a power trip, told me to go into a closet to watch VHS recorded videos about how to make a pizza. So I did what I was told. I watched the 4 hours of video, I collected my check, and I walked out. Never went back. I was a bank data entry expert. This was my internship the next summer. And for an entire summer, I stared and reviewed microfiche film. If you've ever seen it, it's about this big. And I had to review it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for an entire summer for smudges. That was a fun job. I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, where they told me to pick people up. So I picked people up. That's what I did. And then I went to, so my first real job after college, I worked at a company called the Nielsen Company, doing market research for the consumer packaged goods industry. I became one of their top salespeople. I got promoted 2 or 3 times. I moved into marketing. I got promoted again 2 or 3 times and had a really successful run in about 10 years. What I learned in the course of that time was if you do what you're told, you'll succeed. If we listen to our boss and our managers, that's how we can get ahead. And so I was relatively successful. I did what I was told. But behind that smile, I wasn't very happy. Come on. Aww. So I quit. And that's when I got this job. I was the first CMO for this company called ICR. So ICR was a number 15 ranked market research company in the world. You maybe never heard of them, but they're actually, or were at the time, a very large, very successful market research firm. I was their first CMO, their first head of marketing. I was hired by this guy. His name is Steve. This is not actually Steve. His name is actually Steve, but this is not Steve. He kind of looked a little bit like this, but so he hired me because he saw that sales were starting to decline, and he wanted me to create marketing programs that would help deliver revenue, right? Just like CEOs do today. Steve was the president of the company, hired me as the first CMO, and asked me to deliver sales. So I wanted to do what I was told. I went and I met with our team. I talked to our salespeople. I talked to customers. I talked to executives. And I gathered up all those ideas, and I went and I presented them to Steve. After just about 3 weeks, I had a great PowerPoint presentation and a 30-page document, and I handed it to him, and I started presenting all these ideas, and I talked about how Greg on the sales team said that they needed more leads, and talked about how Sally, who was one of our customers, thought that referrals could really drive more sales, and I talked about how Debbie, who was one of my fellow executives, thought that we just weren't differentiating ourselves in the marketplace with our marketing communications. And Steve said, you know what, our customers are just a bunch of crybabies. Our salespeople are even bigger crybabies. They're afraid to pick up the phone and make cold calls. So I want you to show them the power of cold calling. And so after just 3 weeks, I was asked to cold call as the head of marketing for this company. Which I did not want to do, but I did. I did it for a month. I committed to doing it 25 calls a day, 5 days a week for an entire month. I did it because I learned to do what you're told and you'll succeed. And after a month, I walked back into Steve's office and I said, hey, I made 25 calls a day for 4 weeks. I delivered one small, tiny little sale. So I don't think this works. I don't think this is the best thing for me to do. And I want to go back to those ideas that I had told you about. The idea to get more leads, to use referrals, to differentiate ourselves in the market. And then I pulled out this chart where I showed him that since he became president, our market share as a company had declined. Yeah, probably not a good idea. So Steve fired me on the spot. Fired me on the spot. I went home, laid on the couch, was very depressed for about 3 days. And 3 days later, I got a call from this guy. So this is Jack Ringwald. He was the CEO of the company, Steve's boss, ultimately. And what he told me was that since I was fired, he had an emergency meeting called by the sales team and the executives, and he received numerous calls from the customers that I had interviewed, who all believed that the ideas and the plan that I presented were the right thing for the company, and that Steve made a mistake in firing me. So he actually fired Steve and asked me to come back and rejoin the company, which I had to think about, to be honest. But I did. I went back, and I executed an amazing marketing plan based on all those great ideas, and we saw our leads triple and our sales double in just 1 year, just by listening to the ideas from my team members. And so what I learned was that real success doesn't come from doing what you're told. Real success doesn't come from just blindly doing what you're told, but by being a champion for other people and their ideas. So be a champion for other people and their ideas. What if we started asking our teams, how can I help you? What if we all started asking our team, how can I help you? Now, I know what you may be thinking, right? So you just told me a story about pushing back and getting fired, so why would I do that? I'm not gonna tell my boss no, but there is an art. There is an art to what I call the productive pushback. So I want to tell you a quick story. So this is Julie Fleischer. She was the Senior Director of Data, Content, and Media at Kraft Foods. And Julie was a master and is a master of the productive pushback. So Julie ran these programs for Kraft called Kraft Food and Family Magazine and KraftRecipes.com. So she was a leader in the content marketing space as well, Content Marketer of the Year 3 years ago. And what happened was Kraft actually had a bad year a couple years ago, and their CEO said, you know what, I'm going to cut expenses in marketing. We need to see higher ROI. Executives, CEOs expect marketing to deliver revenue. The CMO looked around for things that had a cost, things that had a high cost that didn't appear to deliver revenue. The magazine was expensive. The magazine was expensive to run. So Julie's boss thought maybe we should cut the magazine. And Julie thought maybe she should push back. Right? I understand that the CEO wants to see us cut costs, deliver more revenue. I'm not sure cutting the magazine is a great idea, but she resisted her natural instinct to want to push back directly up the org chart. Champion leaders resist that initial urge. What they do instead is they identify what I call the illusion point. So the illusion point, and I'll give you a visual of this in a second, I think you'll all recognize it. It's where business objectives are translated into tasks that contradict the vision. So remember, champion leaders are anyone who fights for ideas that bridge the gap between a task and an outcome. So Julie's a champion leader because she identified this illusion point. So the illusion point, it's the tip of the iceberg, right? The CEO says, let's put a logo on a golfer's hat, and doesn't realize all the time and money and hard work and sacrifice and expense that goes in to doing those kinds of programs. And that results in lost opportunities and failure and frustration and employees who just start to check out. That's what the illusion point is. It's when we get asked to do something that we know has all of this time and cost and lost opportunity, but from an executive's point of view may seem like a small thing. What we need to do in the pushback is identify and visualize for executives the lost opportunity, failure, frustration, and the fact that we're going to start to lose our employees. So Julie identified this illusion point at her boss, the level of her boss. So the reason that this happens is, again, we see the CEO who has a vision, wants to do something that's right for the business, and that gets translated down the food chain. It's Wudutumu. You guys know what that is, right? What does this mean to us? So the next layer down asks, what does this mean to us? The next layer down asks, what does this mean to us? The next layer down asks, what does this mean to me and my team? And then it gets translated into a series of actions, tasks, and milestones. And this is all the stuff that we do every day. So the CEO at Kraft said we need to improve ROI. The next layer down said, well, what isn't revenue generating? The next layer down said, it looks like this Food and Family Magazine, KraftRecipes.com, is just an expense. So maybe we should cut the magazine. Now, Julie was sitting at the level where she knew the impact it was having on customers. She knew that the magazine was creating value for Kraft's customers. But she was afraid that that value, that impact, was being diluted as it worked its way up the org chart. And the vision from the CEO was being diluted as it worked its way down the org chart. That's the illusion point. That's where the illusion takes place. The illusion point is where business objectives are translated into tasks that contradict the vision. So Julie looked across her organization and realized that there were other people who were supporting the magazine. Champion leaders can be found anywhere below that illusion point. So what did Julie do? First, she identified the illusion point, and she rallied the people across different teams that she knew would support the impact that the magazine had. The second thing she did was she learned how to push back, something I didn't learn to do until later in my 53-job career. So Julie said, why does this matter? What's the impact? And how will it be measured? Let's cut the magazine. Why does this matter? What's the impact? And how will it be measured? So you can imagine the answers from the executive team were, well, our profits are down. What's the impact? We need to improve ROI. How will it be measured? And they said, well, we need to cut expenses. And so what Julie realized is that that doesn't take into account the entire calculation, right? ROI is revenue minus expense divided by expense. So what she realized was she needed to ask her team to see if there was a way they could figure out how the expense of the magazine delivered revenue for the company. So they asked, what if we tied subscribers to sales? Can we tie subscribers to sales? And they could. They created customer profiles, and then they used those profiles to figure out who was making point-of-sale purchases of craft products. Do subscribers spend more money when they buy craft products? And what they found was that subscribers spend $11 more than non-subscribers. Subscribers to Craft Food and Family magazine spent $11 more in the retail environment than non-subscribers of their magazine. So the magazine had tremendous value, right? When they tied the marketing expense to revenue, they realized that cutting the magazine would have contradicted the vision. So what if we stop doing the things that don't work? What Julie realized was that tying revenue to marketing costs allowed them to identify the things that, not just the things that worked, but the things that didn't work. So they were able to push back on all of the requests from the executive team to do marketing activities that didn't work. And that, according to Julie, that data yielded insights that transformed their entire organizational structure and delivered on the vision of the CEO. Ultimately, they supercharged marketing ROI. So what did Julie do? She did what champion leaders do. Champion leaders focus on customer value. Champion leaders support the ideas from their peers. Champion leaders are everywhere inside our organizations. And they hold the secret to changing the entire culture. So champion leaders start by asking Wiftika, right? It's like the famous saying. They start by asking, what's in it for the customer? What's in it for the customer? And when you do that, you create what I call the bullseye organization. So I've been talking a lot about org charts. So why? Why do we talk about the org chart? Why does the org chart even exist? The org chart exists to show us who's above us, who's below us, and who's beside us, right? It makes sense. Organizations need to be able to visualize who's above us, who's below us, and who's beside us. Here's the real org chart. In the real org chart, you've got real people who have personal human interactions. We've got silent partners and secret crushes and somebody sleeping with somebody else and a dad whose kids are on the same football team as a mom who also works there, right? There are real people in the org chart. Family, neighbors, friends, real people. But where is the most important person? Where is the customer in the org chart? Where's the customer in your org chart? So that's why we need to create a bullseye. A bullseye is a customer-centric organization. Now, a lot of companies say that they do this. They say they put their customer at the center. Maybe your company says, we're going to put the customer at the center of everything we do, but instead what we do is we create a maze, right? Customer value and insights and the vision from the CEO get diluted as it navigates through this labyrinth of politics and silos and dysfunction. That's why we saw what happened with United Airlines a few weeks ago. They say they put their customer at the center of their organization, but we know the truth. We know that silos dysfunction real people, and it gets in the way of focusing on customer value. So this is what a bullseye looks like. Every organization, every department is focused on one goal, asking what's in it for the customer. So I want to tell you a quick story. So this is Jason Miller. Jason used to be the head of demand generation and content at Marketo. Now Jason was focused on the customer. And Jason, without knowing it, was trying to build a bullseye organization. So he did fun things. Because he talked to customers all the time, he didn't do typical demand generation programs. He did fun stuff, like creating the Marketo Big Marketing Activity Coloring Book. It was a lead generation tool. where they found a bunch of influencers in the marketing space, and you could actually color them in at different events. I was actually in the coloring book. My kids had a lot of fun coloring with it. This is what my wife did with the picture in the coloring book. So she had some fun with it. Jason wrote a book called Welcome to the Funnel, where he married his love of rock and roll and demand generation, right? Who would ever put those two things together? But he married his passion of rock and roll and marketing, demand generation, by writing this book. He ended up becoming the head of content marketing for LinkedIn. And now LinkedIn was trying to build, and has, I think, succeeded in some ways in building a bullseye organization. But it's not always perfect. So the sales team was launching this new product called LinkedIn Elevate, and they went to Jason, and they said, Jason, we need you to start pushing and promoting and writing about LinkedIn Elevate. And Jason said, what's in it for the customer? And so they came up with an idea. What's the impact of focusing on the customer? Jason set out to answer this question. And what he found, because he works at LinkedIn, is that employees of a company, the employees at your company, have 10 times more connections than your brand account on LinkedIn. Employees have 10 times more connections than the company itself. 3% of employees sharing content generate 30% of all the clicks on brand-owned content. Just 3% of your employees generate 30% of all the clicks on brand-produced content. So employees have power, and Jason wanted to put that to test on the content marketing platform that they have, the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog. And what he realized was that their employees were all the experts that they needed. Their employees were this massively powerful marketing channel that he could use without spending any extra money, without promoting the actual product, but ultimately delivering the sales success. Your employees are experts. Your employees, your customer service people, your salespeople are answering the questions that your customers are asking, the frequently asked questions. Every email that most of the employees inside your organization sends out is an answer to a question that's likely been asked at some point by a customer. So your employees are the experts. What we need to do is help them tell their stories. So that's what Jason was trying to do. What if we encouraged our employees to share what they know and what they love? That was the question Jason asked. What if we encouraged our employees to share what they know and what they love? So Jason decided to do this test. He shared 3 posts a day on the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog for an entire year. 3 posts a day, it took him 2 minutes. 3 posts a day shared on the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog every day for a year. He reached 23 million people. He generated 60,000 clicks on the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog. His colleague, Alex, she posted 3 times a day. She didn't have the same size of the network that Jason did, so she reached 22 million people, generated 58,000 clicks. Their colleague, Sean, he was busy, so he only posted twice a day. It took him 1 minute. He reached 18 million people, generated 49,000 clicks. Just 3 employees, 8 posts a day, 63 million impressions, and 67,000 clicks. Now, Jason is kind of a rock and roll dude, so I asked him, how much pipeline did this actually deliver? And in a rock and roll sort of way, he said, tons of pipe, dude, tons of pipe. Tons of pipeline for their sales organization. 3 employees spending 1 or 2 minutes per day. And the trick to this, it's back to what's in it for them. Jason realized that if they could communicate, when he communicated what was in it to his colleagues and peers in sharing content, not content that LinkedIn wanted them to share, any content that they wanted to share from their LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog, that it would help them. It would help them grow their connections on LinkedIn, build their personal brand, maybe get a new job. But by focusing on what's in it for them, he got them to do the kinds of things that delivered value for their customers and value for their sales organization. Champion leaders ask, what's in it for the customer and what's in it for my colleagues? When we put our customer at the center of everything we do, our customer, our fellow employees, and our companies thrive. Companies that are focused on engagement, employee engagement, and customer value see massive increases in growth. So this is, Jim Stengel wrote a book called Grow. Jim Stengel's the former CMO at P&G. He wrote a book where he identified 50 companies that had mission statements and policies inside their organization that focused on delivering customer value and employee engagement. Happy employees create happy customers, and that creates happy shareholders. And he proved that with this chart. So these 50 companies, the Stengel 50, have a almost 400% higher growth rate than companies that are not focused on customer value. So if you have a boss or someone in your team that says, hey, this is all hippy-dippy stuff, it's not just the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do for your business. So we need to ask what's in it for the customer. We need to ask what's in it for our colleagues, and then we can show what's in it for our customer. All right, so digital has changed everything. It's changed our marketing mix. It's disrupted mega brands. It's propelled unknown companies. We do what we're asked to do or what we think we should be doing. We're focusing on shiny objects. We Snapchat while we Facebook Live. We're thinking about virtual reality. There's never been a better time to challenge the status quo. So I need you to push back, to fight for your customers, to fight for your team, to build the champions inside your own organization, to lift them up, to break through the bureaucracy and the politics of the org chart, and to elevate the best ideas. Because you are the visionaries. You're the change agents. You have the power to choose, to forge your own path. We have a lot of choices today to reach our customers, but you have the power to choose to do stuff that really matters and makes an impact. Are you ready to make an impact? Are you ready to become a champion leader? That's it for me.